This is Michael Popok, and it must be, by the look of the eyeglasses, Legal AF After Dark. Steve Bannon has to report to prison once and for all. No more delays. The D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals said no delay. Report to the Bureau of Prisons for your 4-month sentence for contempt of Congress. 2 counts. But Bannon, being Bannon, decided to see if he could get somebody, meaning 4 or 5 votes on the United States Supreme Court, to find any interest at all in his argument that he had some sort of defense to thumbing his nose at Congress, refusing to turn over any documents, and refusing to testify to the Jan6 Committee. Supreme Court, once again, validating the Jan6 Committee and their subpoena power, sent Bannon off to prison, and he has to report early next week. We break it all down and how we got here and what it means in terms of vote counting and the MAGA right wing of the court that Bannon found no reprieve, only on Legal AF. Take a listen.
I guess the one thing the Supreme Court got right, although it should be a no-brainer, the fact that, you even have to hesitate for a second and go, all right, what are they going to do? They've denied Steve Bannon's emergency request to try to avoid prison. Steve Bannon filed an emergency application saying that based on the issues raised in his appeals, even though he lost before the D.C. Circuit, he claimed that he thought that this was an issue the Supreme Court should hear, and the Supreme Court said, no, you're going to prison. Check yourself in. So he goes to prison on Monday. There's the order right there, so you can all see it. The application for release pending appeal presented to the Chief Justice and by him referred to the court is denied. And that actually means that Chief Justice John Roberts submitted this to the rest of the court for their review, and they did not get the sufficient votes when it was submitted to the entire court. Justice Roberts could have on his own just denied it, but that hasn't really been the practice and policy of the court. What do you make of this, Michael Popok?
Well, it hasn't been the practice and policy of the court ever since shows like ours have shined a light on shadow dockets and a year or two ago, which had been sort of matter of course, where every circuit, in this case, the D.C. Circuit, has a Supreme Court justice assigned to that circuit by the Chief Justice. They do it at the beginning of the term. They don't usually change much. And every Associate Justice and the Chief Justice has 1 or 2 circuits assigned to them. And so the 5th Circuit has somebody in the 7th Circuit, the 9th Circuit. And the way it splits is the way you think it's been splitting. The more democratic, liberal, moderate circuits are headed by Ketanji Brown Jackson, Sotomayor, and Kagan. And the red meat ones are headed by Alito, Thomas, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett. And Chief Justice Roberts reserves for himself, as all Chief Justices do, the D.C. Circuit, where a lot of these cases are coming out. And as you so rightly put it, he could have made the decision on his own with a shadow docket. He decided to refer it in, which is actually worse for Bannon because it shows that they not only couldn't they get the 5 votes that would have been required to be interested in this appeal, they couldn't get the 4 votes to even consider it and stay the case. And so that doesn't mean it was 9-0. If I had to guess, when we kick it back to you, Ben, you'll tell me your thoughts, is definitely voting for Bannon having a further delay would have been Alito and Thomas. And for some reason, and when we get to more Supreme Court stuff, I'll give you my view on it, Gorsuch has been siding with Alito and Thomas a lot in different makeups on different court decisions recently. I think we've got a couple of developments. Maybe this is the thing we can do on Patreon in July, sort of take the plane up and look back down at the landscape of what this term meant for the United States Supreme Court when the dust settles, and we can look at all the 60 or 70 cases. But 2 things that I saw right away was Amy Coney Barrett stepped out of the shadows and has taken a more of an active role, both in dissents and concurrences and speaking out and questioning. And we'll talk about what that means at the appropriate time. And Gorsuch seems to be apparently siding on occasion with the right wing, which signals where his head is at for a lot of these issues. As to Bannon, he doesn't seem to care that he's going to jail for 4 months. He'll be going in as Navarro is coming out in Miami. And to Trump, all this means for Trump is that these are the bona fides that he's looking for his next term. So as I've said to people, if you want an administration filled with felons, people who have had their sentences commuted, pardoned, people have lost their bar licenses, people subject of criminal prosecution in state and federal proceedings. I got an administration for you, and it's headed by a guy named Donald Trump. I know everybody, including Democrats, were doing a lot of hand-wringing off of the first debate. But that, and then, of course, I think the president acquitted himself well when he was on the campaign trail the next day, I think in North Carolina. But it doesn't matter. These debates don't matter. First, these were the old days when George Bush, looking at his watch, tanked him being elected against Clinton. When Ronald Reagan looked really old in the first debate, and in the second debate, he got off a quip against Mondale that won the debate. We're done with all of that. These two, we know as an American people, the body of work of the two people running for the highest office of the land. 50 years of a body of work for Joe Biden, from youngest senator to oldest president and everything in between. Donald Trump, his business record, fraud record, sex rape adjudged record, convicted felon record, and everything else. And that's what you have to choose from. And the administration and the people that go along with those two, and the Supreme Court that will likely, based on precedent and historical events, there'll be one, if not two openings in the next term. So if you were like, well, I really wished he'd done better in the debate, if that's where your focus is at, and not who's going to be picking your next Supreme Court justices and who's not going to be trying to address women's rights being thrown into the trash in this country, voting rights being thrown into the trash in this country, rights for immigration going into the trash on Monday morning. Okay, if that needs to be your concern, and not all this other hand-wringing that's going on about, well, I just thought in the first half of the debate he was a little bit sluggish. Enough. Sorry for my diatribe. Bannon's going to jail. He'll podcast somehow from there with his dime a week that he can put into his payphone, and he'll come out after the election, and hopefully he'll find the landscape has changed and Donald Trump is lost. Welcome back. That was Ben Meiselas and me. We do the Saturday edition of Legal AF. On Wednesdays, it's me and Karen Friedman Agnifilo. We're lawyers who are talking about things that we know what we're talking about at the intersection of law and politics, and that is refreshing on YouTube, I assure you. Help this particular YouTube channel, MeidasTouch, where we exclusively do our work, get to 3 million free subscribers. We're building this network with our bare hands, no outside investors. This is the way you can support us. Just by listening and following and free subscribing. We're uncensored here, unhinged, unfiltered, and unplugged. Nobody tells me what to do or what to say in any of my hot takes or on Legal AF. We bring it to you straight. We don't blow smoke or sunshine. Join us Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time and on every major audio podcast platform. If you already are part of our audience, let me take this moment to thank you for being here with us. We literally couldn't, nor would we want to do it without you. Take that clip, like a little bit of a mini Legal AF, a little bit of an appetizer, send it off to friends and family and people in your life, and ask them to join us and help us continue to grow our audience. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm Michael Popok. That was Legal AF. And if you like that, you're going to love our full-length, curated podcast on Wednesdays and Saturdays, where we dive into 4 or 5 stories at the intersection of law and politics and bring it to you the only way we know how, honestly, without blowing smoke or sunshine. So until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF, this is Michael Popok reporting. Heary, Legal AF Law Breakdown is now in session. Go beyond the headlines and get a deep dive into the important legal concepts you need to know, and we discuss every day on Legal AF. Exclusive content you won't find anywhere else, all for the price of a couple of cups of coffee. Join us at patreon.com/legalaf. That's patreon.com/legalaf.